I am an Earbud Gamers Rejoice. There's finally a cable out there for us with a boom mic. Let's talk about it. Now, the name of this cable is the Ethos Mark III Pro Gaming Cable, and originally this wasn't like a separate product. You had to buy this particular IEM that was designed for gaming to get this cable with the boom arm. It was known as the AAW Kingfisher, and I might check that down the line because it was specifically designed for gaming, and I'll get another one of these type of cables, which is kind of cool. Currently, the Ethos Mark III cable is on its third revision, therefore the Mark III. So this is the third revision of it. Also, I did buy this with my own money because honestly, I was just very excited to have like a microphone specifically for my IEMs in particular. This is the only one that I know that exists out there for like people who use IEMs like you and me. So this will be a pretty exciting thing to check out. So without further ado, let's check it out. Here we got the box, so we know that it came out of Knoll Audio, and this is a handmade-ish kind of cable, but if we open it up, the packaging is rather underwhelming. I mean, it is just a cable, so that's good enough for me. Anyway, you do get the boom mic cable, of course, which does have a detachable boom mic. Aside from that, you should also get a 3.5mm CTIA to OMTP adapter for Xbox or anything else that might use that. You also get a paper with a special card to let you know it's been handmade specially for you, with handwriting that's only about as good as mine. Anyway, here's the cable itself. It's supposed to be a very fancy silver-plated copper cable, and it honestly feels quite nice. The braid feels quite tight, and it does have some stiffness, which allows it to have it easily unraveled or wrapped up without getting tangled up. At the end, it uses an angled 3.5mm jack, which if we look closer, does say Kingfisher on it, as it was originally for the Kingfisher IEM. Now, as for why it came with a CTIA to OMTP adapter, it's because not every 4-pin connector is the same. While they look the same, the audio connection points as well as the mic connection points on the jacks are different, which can cause some compatibility issues with the microphone on some devices, and thus why we get this adapter in case we run into that issue, though it seems to be almost exclusively an Xbox issue at this point. Anyway, back on the cable, if we look at the splitter, it's kind of underwhelming. I was hoping for a higher quality look with maybe more premium materials, especially with the price I'm paying, but it at least feels relatively solid. And another point of disappointment definitely has to be the chin slider, which actually does function quite well and does its job well, but it's not great quality wise if you look at it. It looks and feels like an afterthought. There's just so many better things they could have used as a chin slider, like just a simple plastic bead would have done just fine. Anyway, moving on, we at least get well-built ear hooks with 2-pin connectors at the end, but you may notice on the right side there's an MMCX connector for the microphone, which feels very well made with its flexible metal gooseneck design that allows it to be easily adjusted to where you need it to be and have it stay there. Under the windscreen we'll find our microphone, which is an 11mm condenser microphone, which I unfortunately couldn't figure out what polar pattern it uses because there wasn't any information about it. Judging by its design, I can only assume that it is a unidirectional microphone, but I'm honestly not entirely sure, so we'll just see how well it does during the sound test. Now I should note that this cable only comes in 2-pin connector form, so you're going to have to use IEMs with 2-pin connectors, and it should fit any 2-pin connector IEM, including the Arias, which have a slotted 2-pin connector. The cable actually was designed to fit into a slotted IEM, so it should fit into anything with a slot or without a slot just fine, just as long as it's a 2-pin connector. And with everything set up, here's how it looks like on my head, and it's basically everything you'd expect. On one side, it's basically your standard situation, nothing really worth noting on this side, but on the other side where the microphone is, there are some things I should note. For starters, the boom arm does have a little bit of weight to it, so it might affect the fit of the IEM in that ear, depending on what IEM you're using, as well as the fit of that IEM in your ear currently. You might have to consider changing your ear tips to keep a good seal in your ear, but your mileage will vary. For me, I didn't have much trouble, but for you, you might have trouble. You never know. Really depends on your ears. Now, I could tell you how this microphone sounds with its sound profile and whatnot. I mean, even the website has like a little chart for its sound signature, but I figured it'd be a better idea to let you guys hear what it sounds like with some sound tests. Alright, now we're testing the sound of the microphone itself. It's currently plugged in to my MacBook, and generally speaking, this is how the sound of the microphone will sound across different devices, and the quality may vary a bit depending on like what sound card that device is using. So it'll generally sound like this, but the quality will be up and down. And what better time to be using this than when, like, my neighbor outside is currently hammering on, like, I think they're building something made of wood out there, so hopefully you can hear my voice more than that, but that's part of the test, because why the hell not? Speaking of which, I also kind of want to test how well it focuses on my voice versus, say, typing on my keyboard. This has Sunflower switches by Durock, which are kind of like Thocky-ish tactile switches, so let's see if it picks up those sounds over my voice more. I have tested it before, so I know it does capture my voice much better than the keyboard. But I just also want you guys to hear so you can tell the difference. So, like, here's a keyboard with cream switches, which are looped, and these are pretty thocky. Generally speaking, these are also very loud switches, and you can definitely hear them through the mic, just like with the other switches. But you can still hear my voice far more clearly than the switches itself, simply due to the fact that it is a boom mic close to my face. Now, situations will also vary, so there also will be like background noise playing, but let's also record that situation on a different system. We're going to be switching to the PC now. All right, we're now moved over to the PC setup. I currently have this boom arm cable thing plugged into my PC by using an audio splitter that splits this cable into like a headphone jack and a microphone jack. So I can plug it into the back of my motherboard, which is a Asus Strix X570i mini ITX motherboard, just for context of what I'm using. I did have to boost the volume a bit in like the audio sound settings for like Windows, because that seems to be the nature of Windows when you plug like a microphone into the back of the motherboard, but your mileage will vary depending on what motherboard you're using and what you'll be plugging this set into. So for my case, I had to do that. For your case, you might not, depending on what motherboard you're using or depending on what laptop you're using and what sound cards that's using. So, without further ado, let's get a little bit of testing in. So, I don't really want to do like this typing thing. It's basically the same as on the MacBook. But you can at least hear that my voice is, once again, louder than the typing. I do think the MacBook has a better quality for this recording situation right now versus here. This isn't the most ideal thing in the world, but all things considered, it's doing a pretty damn great job. I think a lot of people who would be using this kind of setup are probably going to be more likely to use a combo jack on a MacBook, or not a MacBook, but a gaming laptop, and I think it should be pretty fine in those situations. But another reason I'm here is because I think most people will be gaming on PC for the most part, and therefore using this for PC unless you're using it for Office or whatever. And, I mean, I guess you could use Office for PC, but enough rambling. I want to put on some background noise. This is a cafe background noise, which can get kind of loud. I have it at a pretty uncomfortably loud volume for me personally, and just to test out if we're going to capture the sound of my voice over this cafe sound more. And it indeed does capture my voice much better than the background noise. It doesn't cancel out the background noise. That's not what it does. It's it's a pretty active mic where it listens to basically everything, but due to the proximity and design of which way the mic is facing my mouth, it captures the sound from there much better than here. And being an IEM, kind of microphone, this is pretty impressive. It's going to do way better than an inline mic, which we'll test in a moment. Let me just switch over to an inline microphone. All right, now we're currently using an inline microphone of the Blond BL03s, which I recommend to a lot of people, because I figured this would be one that a lot of people would have. Inline microphones like right over here. And so this is going to be how it sounds. I think I have the cable mixed up, kind of thinking, because usually it's on the right side, but point is it's still plugged in and it does record my voice and the background, but you'll notice it records the background a lot more than on the boom mic. So that's the nature of the inline mic, because it sits over here. It has to try to listen to your voice all the way up here, therefore it has to be a bit more sensitive to the sounds around it. So it's usually an omnidirectional microphone, so it won't ever sound as good as the more focused boom mic, which we'll switch back to right now. And here we are back on the boom microphone for the IEM. Let me just turn this cafe background sound off. So as you can tell here, it just sounds way better. And the fact is, like, if you really want to use a microphone for your IEMs and you want more quality, this is a pretty good option and a good way to go, especially if you're doing office work or if you're a gamer. It's just really good, and there aren't too many options out there for us when it comes to microphones, especially for IEMs. Usually you have to use a separate microphone like I typically do. I use like a completely separate microphone to talk into, and then I just use my IEMs. But for some people, that isn't going to be an option for you. A lot of you guys will be like maybe using a combo jack on your laptop. You got to be on the go, but you still want to use a microphone that'll focus on your voice, and you want quality out of it and a focus on your voice itself. So this is like a really great option. And then there's also people who are console players, or you just prefer this style, and it would be a great option for you guys as well. It's just a really good sounding mic. Now there is one situation that wasn't quite favorable, as you may hear a hiss in the background right now, and that's when I have the cable plugged into my Xbox One controller, which is wirelessly connected to my PC through the little USB dongle thing to connect the controllers more proprietarily, and there is that audible hiss in the background, as you may hear. This is sort of a very specific sort of situation, and I don't know if this would happen if you'd connect your Xbox controller to an Xbox, because that's actually more properly designed for them to connect to each other. And I don't know if this would happen if you connect a PlayStation controller to a PlayStation with these plugged in. I feel like it's less likely to happen for them, But, do take this all with a grain of salt because, this connection, it is sort of a workaround using a USB dongle to make things work wirelessly. But interestingly, if I plug in the cable, like a wired cable into my controller to the PC, the hiss essentially goes away. As you can now hear here, as I am now wired in to the PC with, the controller, then to, the boom mic here. The hiss essentially kind of goes away, which is sort of interesting. I feel like it could be because maybe the electrical components are now grounded, so we get a more cleaner sound. But even then, very strange situation. Will this happen on your consoles? I don't know, but I feel like the chances of that happening are much lower just because of the more proper connection. But as it seems, a wired connection seems to be the best. And generally speaking, I expect most of you guys who are going to be using this on the PC to probably be wired anyway, whether it's into the back of your PC, into like a DAC amp type of thing, or into your laptop off to the side with a combo jack. So this situation is kind of specific, but for those of you who are console boys out there, do take this all with a grain of salt. All right, now to round things off, I currently have this cable plugged into my iPhone 12 Pro Max. That's what we're recording out of right now, and it is plugged into a 3.5 millimeter to Lightning adapter, so it can be used. And this is how it sounds. It's as you can tell, it's consistently sounding pretty damn good across like devices, with a few minor situations with this being wireless and whatnot. But even then, when it comes to what you hear from the voice, it sounds pretty damn good, and it's definitely better than an inline microphone because it's a boom mic, let's be honest here. And would I recommend it? Absolutely. There aren't too many options out there for us when it comes to like a mic for an IEM that's built in to make our lives easy if we ever go to LAN parties and stuff like that. And even if you're doing office stuff, if you prefer a wired connection for reliability, this is just a really good option. It sounds good, it focuses on your voice, it does everything I needed to do. There is one caveat though, and that's the fact that it is pretty expensive. This is the site I got it off of. This is Knoll Audio, and it costs like $90. And another thing about that is it ships from Singapore, so the shipping on it is not cheap. But for what you get, I think it's personally worth it, especially if you're a heavy IEM user and you really want that inline mic, or not inline, but like a nice mic experience for your IEM. And with that being said, that's pretty much all I have today. So if you do want to buy this microphone, I'm going to leave a link in the description. It's to Knoll Audio. Unfortunately, I don't have too many other places to buy it from. This is the only place. But, hopefully Knoll Audio does watch this and decide to put it on Amazon for Americans. That'd be really great. Anyway, guys, if this video did help you out, leave me a like. That'll help me in this whole YouTube space. Subscribe for more content. Hit the notification bell if you want to know when I'm posting next. Also, I do stream on Twitch these days. I try to be more consistent. I'll leave a link down there as well. So, with that being said, that's all I have for today. So I'll see you guys next time.